This is Midwest Moxie, a show about our region's visionary founders and the experiences that shape them. I'm your host, Kathleen Gallagher, Executive Director of Five Lakes Institute. Maria Bennett knew the doctor was trying to restore function in the stroke patient's shoulder. But what really interested her was that the electrical stimulation he was applying also reduced the patient's pain. That insight became Maria's master's thesis and, a little more than a decade later, the basis for Cleveland-based SPR Therapeutics. Its device offers a non-opioid, non-surgical, non-destructive way to manage pain. SPR has about 260 employees and has raised $120 million of investment funding. Maria, welcome to Midwest Moxie.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thanks so much for having me.
When you finished graduate school at Case Western University, you ran clinical studies at Neurocontrol Corp. And Boston Scientific. But it was your next job as Vice President of Clinical Affairs at NDI Medical, a venture capital and commercialization firm for neurodevice technologies, that led to SPR Therapeutics. Tell us more about that.
As you mentioned, I have been in the medical device industry for quite a while now, and there was an opportunity to be leading clinical studies at NDI Medical. And we sold that company actually back in 2008 to Medtronic. And there was an opportunity for us to get back into the world of pain. So the chairman and CEO of that company, NDI Medical, came to me and said, how about we re-explore this area of pain, what was going on in my master's thesis. And so I spent about a year really doing market validation, clinical validation to identify if there was an unmet need for a solution such as what we had envisioned, which is now today our Sprint peripheral nerve stimulation system. So after doing that validation work, I went back to the chairman and I said, I think that we have something here that could truly fill that unmet need early in the pain treatment continuum that, as you mentioned, is non-opioid, non-surgical, non-destructive. So Jeff said to me at that time, okay, I'd love for you to run this company. I'll give you about 48 hours to think it over, talk to your family, let me know what you want to do on that Monday. I came back on that Monday and said this would be a terrific opportunity to form a company, again, filling an unmet need, but also with a foundational technology, foundational patents that we had, as well as a foundational team to initiate that company and go forward.
So, in other words, you took 48 hours to decide to go back into the world of pain.
Correct. And, it didn't take long to really grab onto it because of what we were seeing going on in the pain management community. At that time, the rising, crisis around the opioid crisis was accelerating. There was significantly, again, an unmet need for a solution that could be used prior to more invasive therapies, such as opioids, such as surgery, such as implantable technologies. So yes, I didn't take long to think it over because there was such a wonderful opportunity for myself and our team to be able to, carry this technology forward and potentially offer it to, many patients.
So that's interesting because this was 2010 when you started SPR Therapeutics. You were already seeing the problems with the opioid use in our country.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we had envisioned for our product was not just a treatment of a particular type of pain, but truly a platform technology that could address multiple different types of pain, both in patients that maybe had acute post-surgical pain, which is many times when opioids are prescribed is after a surgery, maybe after a joint replacement or something such as that. But then unfortunately, if that pain continues or as the patient becomes potentially addicted to those opioids, it is, it's continuing after that period of time. And then the patient is still dealing with the chronic pain, but also now dealing with an opioid addiction. So we saw the vision for being able to use a technology early, again, as I mentioned, in that treatment continuum prior to those opioids or any other more destructive, more invasive therapies being prescribed.
Yeah, so let's talk about for decades, conventional wisdom was that to reduce nerve pain, which is what we're talking about, you had to implant an electrical stimulator in a person's body. But your Sprint PNS system doesn't do it that way. Can you explain to us how it works?
Yeah, I'd love to. So our technology, it is based on electrical stimulation, as you mentioned. It is a peripheral nerve stimulation technology that targets the peripheral nerve that's causing the pain. So when we're in pain, it's either caused by a injury or a disease to a particular nerve that sends then negative signals to the brain that it puts you in essentially a state of pain.
Can I ask, when you say peripheral, it means kind of the nerve next to the pain? Peripheral means next to.
It means more the nerve that's off of the spinal cord. So our
Thanks.
spinal column carries those nerve signals to the brain. We have many, many nerves that feed off of the spinal cord that then go into our joints and our limbs. So we are targeting those peripheral nerves that, for example, if you think about a shoulder pain or a knee pain, the specific peripheral nerves that are in the shoulder pain that are causing or initiating those negative signals across the peripheral nerve to the spinal cord to the brain. So we are targeting that specific area with our fine wire microlead that
Let
is
me
essentially
just ask, sorry. So,
yeah.
if you're targeting a shoulder, are you
Mhm.
targeting the shoulder or the spinal cord, the area of the spinal cord that relates to the shoulder?
So we are targeting the peripheral nerve that innervates that shoulder area, and we are stimulating that particular peripheral nerve that then is connected ultimately to the spinal cord
Got it.
and then feeds the signals back up to the brain.
Thank you.
So if the shoulder has been injured, like a rotator cuff injury or even, osteoarthritis that occurs in the shoulder, we can stimulate through our microlead, this fine wire, the particular nerves in that shoulder to now send positive signals along that peripheral nerve versus the negative signals that are overactive and firing because of the injury or the trauma to that or disease to that particular area. So we do it in a different way. You mentioned, so typically neurostimulation for decades prior to even when we started our company have been in an implantable form, meaning that the entire device is inside the body. It is controlled outside the body, but it's like a pacemaker that is modulating the nerve to send those positive signals to dampen that overactivity or that negative activity that's occurring to that nerve. What we do is that because we are focused specifically to that peripheral nerve, we are only using the stimulation for 60 days. And that wire that's placed in proximity to that nerve exits the skin. There's an external stimulator, an external controller for the patient that modulates the stimulation during the 60 days. But after the 60 days, the system is completely removed. And our data, both through our clinical studies as well as in now commercial use of over 28,000 patients, has shown that greater than 70% of patients will have a significant pain relief, not only during those 60 days, but after the 60 days for many months to years after those 60 days. So there's a durable effect that occurs. And it is because we are targeting specifically those peripheral nerves that are causing the pain.
So, and just in terms of what happens with the patient, you'd go into your doctor's office, they'd insert this wire, it's probably
Mhm,
as thick as a hair, into
mhm.
your body, and then that's how it's delivered, through that wire.
Correct, and that wire exactly, it's inserted almost like an injection, so instead of getting, a patient may receive an injection of medication, like a steroid injection to relieve their pain. Instead of injecting that medication, we're injecting a wire that then stimulates that area of pain, and then, as you mentioned, it's connected to this external device that controls, the stimulation through those 60 days.
So, what types of pain is your Sprint PNS system used for?
Yeah, so we have the broadest FDA approved indication labeling that allows us to stimulate any area of the body that is in a state of pain, except for the cranial facial nerves. So, predominantly, we're being used in areas such as low back pain, shoulder pain, or knee pain. I mentioned those two areas. Those you can consider a patient that maybe is inoperable. So, they may have been referred to their physician to have a joint replacement, but may not be a good candidate for surgery. Or patients that sometimes have surgery or have a joint replacement, there's about 20% of patients continue to have pain after those joint replacements. So we can be used in either one of those situations in areas such as shoulder and knee. But another new area that we're really excited about that we expanded our FDA approved labeling to back in 2021 is headache and neck pain. And we're seeing quite a bit of unmet need and demand by our interventional pain customers to treating those types of patients with our Sprint device.
How do I, if I were interested in being treated with your Sprint device, how would I find a doctor who used it?
Yeah, so we're going to be expanding some of our website so that patients can go there and find a doctor through our website. But right now, if I had a friend or family member that was in pain, I would suggest that they talk to their physician, usually their family, physician, and then they can ask to be referred to a pain management physician. And those pain management physicians either are practicing in hospital settings or in surgery centers, but they have a whole host of different options for pain patients that they can explore to see what the best option is for that particular patient. So it's really getting into that pain management setting is going to then allow patients to learn more about Sprint, but also maybe about other therapies and whatever the one is going to be best for them.
You've gotten SPR through many hurdles. You've secured more than 280 patents. You've gotten FDA clearance. You've built a research organization into a commercially focused company. You figured out reimbursement, who pays for the treatment. What kind of advice do you have for entrepreneurs or any business people about overcoming these kinds of big obstacles?
Well, first and foremost, we are focused, our company culture, our company credo is always putting patients at the center of everything we do. So finding a passion that you can then, get up every day and face those challenges is first and foremost for any entrepreneur. For us at SPR, it's about impacting a patient's life in a positive way, improving their quality of life that impacts them in so many different ways, whether that is an opportunity for them to sleep better, an opportunity for them to get back to work, an opportunity for them to, relate with their family, pick up their grandchildren. We've got stories after stories after stories that really compel us to do the hard work that we do every day. So it starts with that and that focus of why we are here. Then I would suggest, build a team around you that with resources that are better than you in the sense that they bring new ideas, new experiences to the table, and that you have a culture and a company that fosters empowerment and collaboration and transparent communication so that those ideas are implemented, are brought forth, and continue to allow the company to operate in an efficient way. We're still a relatively small company in a big industry, and we have been able to bring this technology all the way from idea and benchtop to commercialization. And we've been able to do that because of our team, our collaboration, and our focus on why we are here, which is, again, putting patients at the center of everything we do.
We're talking with Maria Bennett, who's founder and CEO of SPR Therapeutics, a Cleveland company whose Sprint PNS system offers a non-opioid, non-surgical, non-destructive way to manage pain. We're going to take a quick break and be back for more. This is Kathleen Gallagher, host of Midwest Moxie. We're back with Maria Bennett, founder and CEO of SPR Therapeutics, a Cleveland-based company whose device offers a non-opioid, non-surgical, non-destructive way to manage pain. We've been talking about the device and what it does for pain. Maria, can you give us an example of a patient and what their experience was with your device?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So again, we have many patient stories that talk about the impact and positive impact it's had on their life. So there was a patient that joined us for our all company meeting last summer who had suffered from a couple different health issues, but one was a significant one in which he was suffering from knee pain. And he was essentially a maintenance worker of such that had to be very active on his job. And because of this chronic knee pain, he was not able to work. He was gaining, significant amount of weight. He was getting, depressed, and just really not living the life that he wanted to live. He had explored multiple different types of therapies that were just not impacting or reducing the pain to the point where it could have a positive impact on his life. Until he was then, he matched up with a pain management physician who suggested him using Sprint. So he used our technology, he used it for the 60 days. At the end of the 60 days, he had significant, almost complete pain relief in his knee pain. He was no longer taking any medications. He was able to go back to work. And at our all company meeting, he got up on stage and started to kind of show us his belt. And we really didn't know where he was going with this, but he wanted to show the fact that he was wearing the same belt that he had worn for several months, prior to that, and had lost so much weight that it was, lots of slack, on the belt, so to speak. So he was very proud of this weight that he had lost. And then that evening, we were doing a celebration with our team, and he was on the dance floor with us dancing. And I love to dance. And so that moment in which we have a patient who couldn't essentially walk or be functional in his job was now dancing and enjoying life with our team was so impactful to all of us to see that play out.
You go to a conference every year where you put your system in front of pain management doctors. And in the past, it was kind of who's SPR Therapeutics, right? When you were smaller. What happens now as you've grown?
Yeah, and so I like to tell the story that at our largest industry conference, which is the North American Neuromodulation Society meeting, but there's also several other pain society meetings that we attend that are really well represented by the pain management community, which includes industry and physicians and just a whole host of constituents there. And we have gone from within the exhibit hall, we've gone from the folding table in the corner of the room to now being the center of the exhibit hall, where our colors are green. All the medical device companies are largely blue. So I say we're the green in the sea of blue. And we have physicians that are coming up to our booth and saying, I've heard of SPR. I've heard about Sprint. I've talked to my colleagues. I've read the data. Where's my rep? And so it's the perfect time for us as an organization to be focused on commercial expansion. We just completed a financing at the end of January that it is focused exclusively on US commercial expansion and putting additional representation into the field to respond to this demand.
Between that and the story you told about this guy whose knee pain was alleviated, it must have been so frustrating for you. You started the company in 2010. How did you feel watching the opioid crisis play out, knowing that you had an alternate solution?
Yeah, it's unfortunate for any new technology as far as how long it does ultimately take for these technologies to be impactful to the market. It is, frustrating for industry and for physicians, of course, when they see opportunities, better safety profile or less invasive that they can offer to their patients. But unfortunately, there's hurdles that are just in their way, and it takes time to get over those hurdles. We're fortunate that, after we received our FDA clearance, that we were able to build out our commercial team and start responding to this demand. But, building an entrepreneurial company in medtech, it takes capital. And so raising the money and, being able to attract that capital, especially to the Midwest, is challenging. And so we're based in Cleveland, and, most of the medical device companies are based on the coast, or most of the capital from venture capital is largely on the West Coast or on the East Coast. So we had that challenge, that we had to educate those investors on the opportunity that we saw in front of us and get them as believers, so to speak, to invest in us so that we had the capital to grow. And then the next challenge, which is not unique to us, is the reimbursement or the market access for getting the device paid for once it's prescribed to patients. Medicare, fortunately, does cover the device, but about half of our patients are on private commercial payer insurance. And so those policies, those coverage policies from commercial insurers, does take time to educate the payers with the data about any new technology so that they essentially will write into their policies to have new technologies covered. We would hope that these patient stories and the opioid crisis would inspire commercial payers to, move faster, so to speak, on, changing those policies. But that does take time. They have to do their diligence in order to assess the cost benefits to the patient, the health economics around it, the clinical data around it. So it is a process, and we are working through that process now to hopefully gain more and more commercial coverage to give easier access to patients to receive our technology.
I think I see what you do. You channel your frustration into what do we have to do next?
Yeah, so I said at our last company meeting is I always look at challenges as opportunities. Some things we can't change, whatever we can do that's within our control, we have to continue that fight. And knowing what we can control, whether it's collecting the data, whether it's ensuring that we're delighting our customers with, safe and high quality product and technology. It's our team and making sure that they're satisfied with their job on a day-to-day basis so that they can do the best job possible for the patients and for the physicians. But we'll keep, drudging through this, and we see that the how many patients have had such a positive impact again on their quality of life that we want to be able to offer that to as many patients as possible. So that story has overcome our previous challenges, whether that be with the FDA, whether that be with investors. And now we believe that, this next challenge with commercial payers will continue to fight that fight and, tell that story so that we can, again, give more access to more and more patients. Mhm.
So, regarding this issue of private insurance, you have a whole team that's dedicated to working with patients who are struggling to have their insurance pay for their treatment, right?
That's right. We have a team that we call our SPR care team. And essentially, if a patient opts in to that program, then our team will advocate on behalf of the patient to achieve coverage of their insurance, to get reimbursed for the Sprint device. So our team is dedicated to talking to insurers and educating them on the benefits and the risk of Sprint, the data behind it, the potential cost savings that can occur by using Sprint early in the treatment continuum versus more expensive therapies that come down the continuum of care. So they do that job on a daily basis to achieve that access for patients.
You also mentioned, let's just come back to it, the Cleveland question. How do
Mhm.
people react? A medical device company in Cleveland.
So I think that if anybody's familiar with Case Western, they are really well known for biomedical engineering. And so it is well known from a med tech perspective, especially in the field of neurostimulation. So my academic advisor is in the National Academy of Sciences, well known throughout the field as far as being a leader. So that is the core of where this came from. So that's not too unusual for folks to realize or recognize that Cleveland could be a base for a company such as ours. But to your point, there's not a lot of then med tech companies that unfortunately survive, so to speak, in the Midwest because of the reasons that I mentioned as far as attracting capital and even to the point of sometimes, attracting talent. So we're very fortunate that our team, we have attracted significant, well experienced talent in the region. And, but many times these companies are based in Minneapolis, based out in California, based in other areas where that talent is. And so we do have satellite offices in Minneapolis and in Chapel Hill, the Research Triangle area. But recently, another colleague really complimented, I think, myself, but the organization as a whole for sticking with our roots and really building this company in Cleveland and ensuring that we can not only attract the talent, attract the investment, but also grow to a point where we are now known as a leader in the peripheral nerve stimulation market.
One of the other obstacles you faced was just as a woman, you had even board members who were skeptical about your ability, despite all your executive experience, to build this company. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I am a first time CEO. And when I took on the role of CEO, I was told by a few folks that, it would be a challenge to attract well qualified, well experienced board members and potentially even investors and otherwise because of my gender and because of my relatively young age at the time. Looked at this individual and said, well, there's not anything I can do about either one of those things. So I'm going to attract the talent, attract the investment, attract the board members based upon our value proposition of again, a device, a technology that can really change the landscape of pain management. So, and that's exactly what we've done. We have a very efficient, highly qualified 5-person board, including myself, two retired executives from J&J, retired entrepreneur that I mentioned that sold the previous company to Medtronic, and a retired executive from Philips Medical, as well as that company that we, NDI Medical, that we sold. So we are a very efficient, experienced executive board that is surrounded by a leadership team, and again, have attracted smart capital, I would say, in the sense that we have not tried to do too much with too little, and we've not tried to raise significant amounts of capital until we were ready. And we've also been fortunate to supplement the equity investment with over $40 million of non-dilutive funding that has been awarded from the National Institutes of Health and the Department of Defense, and very competitive grants and contracts that validate not only the technology, our team, the unmet need, but essentially, the opportunity for technology such as this to change the landscape.
You've raised significant amounts of money. You've got demand for your product. You're growing revenue. How big can this get?
Yeah, we're just scratching the surface. And so we see that the market opportunity for pain as a type of disease or state is larger than cardiovascular issues. It's larger than cancer. I mean, all of those things combined. And many times there's patients that are suffering in silence because there's not options for them, either, other than, unfortunately, the more invasive options such as opioid and other types of technologies or surgery. So we believe that as Sprint takes his place early in that treatment continuum, that we will raise more awareness, that there's going to be more physician adoption, there's going to be more opportunities to offer this to patients in multiple different areas of pain. So we're really, again, proud to be the leader in the space. We are proud of our competition that's in the space, because we want this type of technology to be able to offer patients options, offer physicians options. None of us should feel as though we only have limited options or don't have any options to treat pain that really has a significant impact on patients' lives.
Thanks so much for sharing your story, Maria, and we'll look forward to watching you grow.
Thanks so much, Kathleen. I appreciate it.
You can read more about today's guest by visiting wuwm.com. Don't forget, you can listen to the show as a podcast if you'd like to take us on the go. Just search for Midwest Moxie wherever you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Kathleen Gallagher. Midwest Moxie was created by executive producer Audrey Nowakowski and me. Today's episode was produced by Audrey Nowakowski and engineered by WUWM's Jason Reevy. Join us next Sunday at 7 p.m. to hear from more visionary Midwestern founders building innovative companies. That's right here on 89.7, Milwaukee's NPR. Support for Midwest Moxie comes from Microsoft, whose efforts to drive technology development across the Midwest and beyond include its national TechSpark community engagement work, which started in Wisconsin, its role as co-founder of Titletown Tech in Green Bay, and its new AI co-innovation lab at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. More information is available at Microsoft.com. And from Quarles & Brady LLP, a multidisciplinary Am Law 200 firm with approximately 550 attorneys who support large and small businesses, from Fortune 500 companies to startups and entrepreneurs across the country. More at Quarles.com.